This is an SX 1189 bagger, and we're going to show you kind of what it does to start with. It's got a printer attached. So what this bagger is going to do is it's going to print the label, it's going to present the bag and open it with air, and we can load the bag and seal it and send it on its way with a label. So here we go. Here we are, we can load the bag, cycle the bagger, round and around, and it comes out here. Okay? That's the whole idea behind the SX machine. So, to make you familiar with the machine, I want to start with the HMI screen. This is the human machine interface. It's how we communicate with the bagger. So our HMI here is an Allen Bradley. It's got a couple of buttons on the side. I want to talk about the buttons. First of all is the dashboard screen. It's the one that looks like a speedometer. This is the operating screen we want the operators to be on at all times. We have some other screens. We have the home screen. It looks like a little cottage up here. This is going to give you the menus for service and administration options, settings, and some troubleshooting functions for the technician. So the first most important thing in this setup screen is the settings. And in the settings, we're going to see the bag length, the seal offset. The seal offset is the distance between the seal and the top of the bag plus about a ½ inch. So a zero setting is going to be a ½ to 3/4 inch seal offset. We can make that longer if necessary. The next one is the feed speed. We typically run it at 20 inches per second feed speed. So the seal dwell at 3/10 of a second is how long we hold the heat and the pressure on that seal to weld the plastic together and close the bag. We have a seal cool of 4/10 of a second because we've just melted plastic together. We want that to cool enough so that it doesn't become string cheese when we try to take it off. And the pass-through is set at 3 inches. The pass-through is the distance between the front of the machine and this jaw. It's adjustable out to 4 inches or down to a ½ inch if you need it. So we set it typically per the bag size so that the jaw is just touching the bag and the bag isn't flopping around under it. On the second settings screen, we've got a batch counter. What a batch counter is, if I set it as it's set for 30 and I enable the batch counter, we'll run 30 bags and the machine will automatically stop and let you know that you ran 30 bags. You can set that for any number of bags you want. It has a parts counter, which we're not using here unless we have an automatic filler. We're not using one in this case. Consecutive bags, we can run up to 50 inches of bags. So what it'll do is it'll seal a bag, but it won't separate it. It'll advance another bag, so you can load multiple bags in a row. So if you had a parts kit that had screws, seal that bag. You had washers, seal that bag. You can run any combination number of bags as long as it doesn't exceed 50 inches. Filler drop time, not applicable unless you're using an automated system to load the machine. And high pressure is an option that's not on this bag, this machine. The fan speed that holds the bag open is adjustable. We can increase it or decrease it depending on what we want to accomplish with thicker or lighter bags, or if you're throwing light parts in the bag, we don't want to blow them back out, we can decrease the fan speed. In the options screen, if you have a printer, printer should appear here in the options. We touch the printer, notice the bar is blue at the top. That means that the printer is enabled. So whenever we cycle the machine, the bagger will not cycle until a label is presented to the printer. If we disable it, we can run the machine without running labels, so we can run just straight bags. Printer enabled. In here you're going to find your print speed, your print offset. The print offset is the distance from the bottom of the bag to the bottom of the label. And we can move that label up as far as we need to by adjusting the print offset. The last is the print length. So if we have a 6-inch label, we want to set our print length to 6 inches. So this needs to match your label length. It should be plus a quarter inch. Well, no, it's a zebra. It doesn't have to be. It should be 6 inches. In this screen, we can send a test label. This machine comes with a canned test label already built in for test purposes. We can send those labels down to our printer. When those labels reach the printer, the data light will blink. So I'm going to send labels. Now the printer has a label ready. Provide a label and advance the bag. If I'm done printing test labels, I need to clear them. And we can see that the labels are cleared here because the data light's out. Now the printer is ready to take your customer labels into the bag. Now there's one last button that confuses people. It's a cancel print request. If I were to try to cycle the bagger right now, and I don't have a label loaded, the bagger won't advance the bag because the printer isn't printing. But if I'm done printing for the day and I just want to take it out of cycle, you can see it's waiting for printer. I can tell it to cancel the print request, and now we'll go back into cycle. Bagger's ready to cycle. Right. So when we're ready to load the ribbon, there's a diagram on the side that shows how it goes. The most important thing to remember is that it goes counterclockwise. So the ribbon's going to go this way. When it comes off the roll, it's going to come off counterclockwise. We've got a brand new ribbon spool that's going to go on the ribbon feed hub. And then ordinarily we would have an empty core, but we can do it this way also. The same thing. It needs to go on counterclockwise. Press it on completely onto the hub. The ribbon goes down over this roller, straight up through the front, like so. And then it comes back and it goes around the take-up hub. I'm just going to give it a couple of turns, pull a knot into it so that it pulls tightly, and then wind it up. We'll wind it up till the wrinkles are gone, and we've changed the ribbon. Just like that. There's three ways to function in SX. The foot pedal is an option. We can cycle it with the foot pedal. We can cycle it with the hand paddles. Or we can cycle it from the HMI screen. There are other options. We can use light curtains to trigger it as well. One other thing we want to check on the SX, take the roll off. Well, actually, I can leave the roll on to show it. This arbor has a one-way spring in it. We want to make sure that that spring is working. If you can just spin it around and around and around, the spring needs to be replaced. When you set the film on here, make sure that you don't clamp it too tight. The bags need to be able to rotate on the shaft. Otherwise, it will pull and pull and pull and break the spring. When you don't have the rewind spring, your bags do all kinds of silly things. They don't track right, and it affects your printing. So this is definitely a check. I carry one in my toolbox because it's common. The last thing, of course, we're going to do is make sure the print head is clean, make sure our fan's working, make sure the ribbon is webbed properly, that it's not going around any rollers it shouldn't, and make sure your clutch feels good. Everything seems to be fine on this machine. That's it. We can web our bags back up, put the machine back in service, put our cover on, and we're done.